Okay, so now I'm going to kind of put this together. And what I just did is enter, and this is assumption. Again, this is a video about debt sizing. And debt sizing using different DSCR ratios. I changed this one. This is a little more aggressive because I wanted to make sure that we have some cases where theoretically the P90 10-year occurs. Now, I'm trying to emphasize that there's a lot of judgment in computing these P90s and P50s and all that because of all this stuff about the when we did this an earlier analysis, which is probably more important than the thing I'm going to just be doing now, although I bet you we'll just have one or two people watching this whole video stuff. But this standard deviation of the 10-year compared to the mean is enormous differences. There's enormous differences, and these are things like getting the correlation between the airport wrong, not the magnitude, but the uncertainty associated with the uncertainty associated with turbulence, the uncertainty, I got that right this time, the uncertainty associated, not the level, the uncertainty associated with all these things. Claiming you can do this is just, for me, just totally implausible. Now, so let's use our Shift Control C, and now, so I entered some assumptions for, I used the index function to get the capacity, and then entered some standard kind of thing with O&M expenses, although O&M is an enormous issue, because I think O&M question is whether you should bother with the O&M and whether the O&M is the incentive in the PPA contract is really appropriate for the O&M. And then all I did is, since we'll assume a 1-year construction period or immediate construction period, and we'll get the we'll put a different debt tenor and an interest rate. So the as usual, let's put some operating analysis in here. Sorry about wasting your time. Let's put the CapEx, and then let's put the after we put the CapEx, let's do it right. Start with the production, the capacity, production. Let's put the capacity factor. Okay, and then after we do that, let's put the CapEx, and then let's put the price and the revenues, and then the O&M per kW per year, and the O&M. Now, once we do that one, then we'll get the I'll just call it EBITDA. And I'm going to see the CFADS and then we'll put the debt sizing. And then what we need to do is essentially do this EBITDA, and we're going to have to put EBITDA for P90, for P50, and then we'll put the EBITDA for P90 1 year. That was all our discussion about what this 1 year and of course I did it wrong. 1 year, and let's put the P90 10 year. Okay, this has got no wind effects in it. This, if it was, these were both P99, this would be a bigger number. This has everything in it. This has nothing, only the permanent effects in it. Okay, so we need the 3 EBITDAs, and let's put debt sizing, and then let's put P50. and then we put CFADS. How about yes, CFADS for the P50, and then we'll put target debt service for the P50. And then I don't see how to do it in some kind of magic, elegant way. And then we'll put NPV of the debt service, which is the debt amount. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing here and go and make this, instead of the P50, let's make it the P90 10-year. And then we'll do another one and make that one the P99 1 year. Okay, and the theme of all of these things is that there's some judgment here. Anybody who says there's not judgment in any of these things is crazy, I think. This has got, I'm repeating myself, but this has got all the permanent effects in, and this has too. There's probably less judgment in computing the variation in the wind from year to year, although you don't have a lot of long-term wind studies and all that sometimes. But and I'm gonna, show you some real wind analysis from some wind farms in another subsequent video. Okay, so that's our operating analysis and our debt sizing, and then we put debt size selected. Okay, and we take the minimum of all of these ones. Okay, and then we can put our debt schedule. Of course, we'll put an opening balance less the repayment. Okay, and a closing balance. Now, the final thing, and then an interest rate. Now, if we want to really do an analysis here, and then we'll put a cash flow. Now, what we will eventually do is take a P50, P90 cash flow. So now we'll put our cash flow, and eventually we'll get our equity cash flow and our equity IRR. Okay, but that will be a different scenario. The debt schedule is given by the minimum. Now we might want to make a P50, P90, or P whatever analysis, but when we do that, this cash flow is going to be on one basis. Let's say it's the P50, but it's the P90 or the P99 might drive the debt schedule. That's why understanding really what's underneath some of these variations and inside these DSCRs is so important. Now, I'm going to I hope you don't mind that I type these in a little bit. You hear the typing on the video, which is probably a little irritating. Okay, and I'm going to pause this, and then we'll discuss the results. Okay, I think I'm back here now. I had to make one minor change here. When I made this adjustment to the P50, I should have multiplied it, not added it. And let's make this 1.3 times for a minute. Okay, now, so I made an operating analysis. We put the capacity in, and then I added the 3 different production scenarios. I don't see how to do this other than doing this separately, and I thought about making fancy data tables or something like that, but just putting them directly, I think you need them both, because the debt size is different, determined in a different manner from the revenues expenses. Now, I temporarily put a 0 O&M expenses, so we have revenues in our 3 different cases. And we finally get our EBITDA, which is our revenue in our different cases versus the operating expenses. And then we have the different target DSCRs in our three different cases. I put an interest rate in, and then, just a minute, I need to put a debt outstanding switch. Oh. Okay. Now, remember, this is the tenor. Okay, and we'll just put our switch in here, our debt tenor, and I'm doing something extremely bad. Let's make that less than or equal to the debt tenor, okay? And then, so I need to use and multiply our target debt service by this each time. Okay, and whoops, I've got some background. And then we,
was that fun?
Okay.
Beckett, good girl.
Okay. I might have to turn it off here in a minute, but, uh-oh, and there's a baby crying. Okay, so once we do this, then we take the NPV of this number, and you can see that the lowest NPV is in this case, the lowest NPV, the lowest debt is this one, which causes the constraint, so we can do a match of the minimum of these three numbers against the numbers themselves. Oops. I've got to remember to do the thing here. Okay. And then we put an index of that against the different criteria. I have to, it's one off. Okay, and I did it wrong. Okay, and I keep screwing it up. Okay, let's keep going. Come on. Okay, and then here's the interesting part is I believe this was from the last video how we did it, and this is this one, and we get the same number each and every time. We get the same criteria. Now this is always it's either this or this. Now let's do a little different of a constraint. Let's put 1.5 in for and then now we're getting P50 and P99. Let's put 1.45 in for this one. And we should get some, at least with some to P10, okay? And if you're comparing these two, they should be the same. Perhaps I should move this up here and even over here, okay? Now that is the same until we put in an O&M expense. And when we put in an O&M expense, I think they're not necessarily the same anymore. Let's make this 1.3 or something. So we kind of, I seem to have a problem with my, so this is P50, P99 1 year. It's still the same even after we put in, I'm not absolutely sure because the percentage change, here's a difference one. Okay, it should be different when we have the O&M in here. So that's debt sizing with with the different alternatives. And now I'm going, and you can see here's the lesson. There are a few absolutely crucial points. Number one, it works when there's zero O&M expense. It doesn't work otherwise. In other words, the simple method we did doesn't work. precisely otherwise. Second is that once you do this, then you can determine, well, which is the one that really matters. Which is the DSCR that matters, and what's driving that. But more importantly then, let's go and figure out our consulting studies and see if we just need a higher, I shouldn't say it like this, but really it is a little bit of negotiation. Do we need a higher base case, or do we need to adjust the P90 or the P99 case? Okay? And I'm going to stop the video now, so bye. Hello. So this is the finally, let's get done with this analysis, okay? And I've finished it, so I'm not going to take you through the Excel equations. I'm just going to kind of show you how it works, okay? So where we left off, we had figured out the debt size. Now, also just made a little match where we matched the whatever the right kind of case with the selected case. And then we can just put 1, 2, or 3 in here. These are just inputs, and then we just make an index to get the same sort of thing with the matching index. Okay, now once you have this nice little index function, or this number from 1 to 3 set up, you can just use the choose command to get the correct debt number. Now you notice that this debt is for P99. This could be, the cash flow is not going to be necessarily the same as the debt. The debt, we use the P99 1 year and the P90 10 years and all that to figure out the right level of the debt. And we already talked about, well, you might have a different kind of criteria. Let's say we have this, then we might, we're probably going to certainly be in the P99 kind of case, and we might be in the P99 case for just about all of these now. Okay. I see. Maybe you can hear a baby in the background, huh? And so that was not very interesting. So let's put this back up to 1.45 perhaps, and 1.25, again, I put the resulting thing here, the resulting criteria for the debt, okay, so we can, we're still every time in the P99 case now. So, so let's make this 1.5, and I mean this has got some real numbers, so you can see what kind of, what kind of DSCRs it takes to get away from that P99 case, which is, it takes a whole lot, okay? I'm going to put 1.4 here, and then maybe we'll have a little bit of case where this has got, we've got some P90 10 years here, and I'll put 1.55, and then we'll maybe have some P50. So we have some different cases, and the key thing, the key implication is that this debt that's outstanding, that depends on all of those kind of things. Now when we get to the cash flow is different. The cash flow, I said, okay, well let's just take these 3 different cases and make a little drop-down box, which I believe there's a major bug in Excel 2016 for this. It works when you open it up, and it can create a mess when you copy this to a graph. Okay, it's a different, entirely different subject. Okay, and now our repayment, again, is the same sort of thing with the choose function. Okay, I think if you'd have taxes, you'd have to do a little more complicated. It's not that much, but you'd have to get the CFADS and put the tax depreciation and get the interest effect on the taxes in each of them. Okay, and then we go down to our EBITDA, and we take that from the three things here. So we take one of the three up here, depending on our little index function, and the repayment of the debt, of course, still comes from the debt balance. And then we get the equity cash flow. This is the project cash flow. This is the equity cash flow. And then we take the amount of expenditures relative to the debt. So with the price here of 60, we can see what happens to the IRR now on the equity. Now, okay, if we got a P50 case, it says, well, in this case, that for this one, the target debt service was also based on the P50, so everything's from that. Now, in this case, the P99 drives that, and if this P99 production, remember that is driven to a large extent by some judgmental kind of variables. If this is higher, so let's just multiply this by 1.2, this is good, you can here, my friend. Okay, then we're into the P90 case, and even though that this P99 case has nothing to do with it, just that little adjustment increased the IRR. It didn't increase it dramatically this time. Okay, that's the issue. So these production levels, even though they're maybe not measured in the IRR, they still have a big effect on the IRR. I'm just pressing the Shift Control C and finishing up all of our kind of analysis. So the debt sizing this time has three different scenarios, and then we put the debt schedule. So I'm putting this file both in this one is I'm going to call this one debt sizing. That will be on the website in two different places. It will be in kind of in the advanced structuring. We'll put it down here in the files associated with lesson set 1, and the lesson set 1 was this debt sizing lesson. And then I'll also put it in the wind resource assessment section. Okay, so that's it. Goodbye for now.